how much I believed in myself to get a medal in Tokyo, I need to really believe in myself that much to be able to get the gold. I've ran 1,800,000 in my life, just go and run another one. And it sounds so simple because it is. It really is that simple. And I know there's a lot on the line. Olympic medals can really change my life, 100% back then. But I think you just have to take it back to that basics of it's literally just another race in a really big stadium.
This episode is supported by Huel.
Well, Keely, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
What do you think of when I say high performance?
And these questions coming already. I think for me, high performance is being able to get it right and produce your best when it matters the most. And fortunately, I've been able to do that quite a lot so far. So I feel like that is something that's really important to me, would be high performance, doing it when it really matters on the day.
You say fortunately, you don't just keep getting lucky time and time again.
Yeah.
So have you looked at why you keep on delivering when it matters?
I think it has to do a lot with trusting in yourself and your ability, because you can't control what anyone else does in that race. Like, you know, people in front of you, behind you, their race tactics, your race tactics, and just playing to your strengths. And I feel like with the 800, you have to make a lot of decisions on the spot. And there's been times where I've thought, that is where I lost the race, or this is where I won the race, or this and that. And I'm still learning that. I think that's something I'll still carry on learning my entire career. But I've done very well to walk away with the medal from each of my championships so far. So I think I'm doing something right.
Particularly because you're apparently always late for everything. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
How is such a fast person always late? I wonder whether this is just you being able to continue being you, if you like, in this sort of madness of the athlete's life.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people say I'm quite chilled and relaxed, and that would be the weakness of my chilled and relaxed state. Just being like 25 minutes late for training. Oh, yeah. Luckily, my coach is quite chill about it, and he's just like, I would prefer to be on time, but I just can't seem to do it.
Your coach, your coach thinks it's a benefit.
Yeah, well, I saw a video one time, and he saw the same one, and it was like late people are more successful than on-time people. So I was like, I'll take that.
See, that's really interesting because we've met lots of coaches here, most famously Clive Woodward, the former England rugby coach.
Okay.
And he said that in his culture of England rugby, when he took over, that they introduced something called Lombardy time, which was 10 minutes early, is actually being on time. And they felt that...
You'd been in a world of trouble, by the way.
Yeah.
But
they'd be on press-ups every day.
But then so many of our guests tell us that they see being late as a sign of disrespect to other people.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your view on it.
I can see that. I guess it's also a culture thing as well. Like, if you have meetings, I wouldn't want to be late for that. But I think in my spot and the setup I have with Trevor and my training group is they want to create a relaxed, chilled, fun environment to come to, because I've got to push myself so hard every day. His philosophy is just, I want it to be fun. I want you to keep coming back. I don't want to keep shouting at you for this and that. But I have a few times told him, you need to actually shout at me because sometimes it gets out of hand. I'm like, you need to tell me, no, Keely, if you're late today. Or sometimes he'll say, training's 9:30, but it's actually 10. So then I'm on time.
I don't think it really matters about the importance of the moment, because weren't you almost late for your Olympic medal ceremony? Yeah,
but that... just on a high, time just went away.
But I think...
One thing I'm not late for, though, is call room and race. I will never be late on race day. I'll always structure out and I will turn up when I'm meant to turn up, even early sometimes.
Yeah. So when do you switch on then? Because that's a very definite decision, isn't it?
Yeah. I think for me, obviously when I was younger, I probably did used to people get quite nervous before races and whenever people start thinking about it, but for me, I find that's a big waste of energy, really being anxious all week. So I like to switch on literally probably on the day or a few hours before I leave to go to the track.
Yeah. See, because again, there's a contrast there with, we interviewed the woman whose record you beat, Dame Kelly Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
And Kelly told us about, she had to learn this, and the example she offered was in 95 when she came up against Bull Merker, I think it was, in the World Championship final in, I think it was Gothenburg.
Yeah.
And she said that she spent the whole day before the race using up nervous energy, worried about what Bull Merker did, and it was only when she got to the track she didn't realise the energy it had sat from her. So tell us a little bit around how you learned to manage that nervous energy.
I think a lot of it, I'm quite lucky that it is a bit in my personality to be quite relaxed, and I'd prefer to be distracted away from the tension of what's going to go on in the race, because you really can sit there and overthink it. And I'm not going to sit and be like, oh no, I don't think about it at night before I go to sleep. I'll think about it all the time, but it's just how you think about it, I think. So I'll know what I'll do. I'll discuss with Trevor throughout the week, you know, when we get to the final. Hopefully everything goes fine. What I'm going to do, what people might do, this and that. But yeah, I think I'll just leave it for on the day, like, because like you say, you can take up so much energy and you can get through it with adrenaline, but there's only so much adrenaline you're going to have before it crashes. And I just don't think I'm the type of person that would do that and like think about it so much to drain that energy. So I'm quite fortunate that is the way that I think.
So what do you do to distract yourself then and take your thoughts in a more positive direction?
Well, I think I'm quite sociable. So I like to socialise with people on the team, and like there'll always be like a pool table around or laugh. People are always laughing and joking. I think everyone helps each other out in terms of like just trying to stay relaxed and not think about it, because when you've got 3 rounds, if you're getting that nervous for 3 rounds, like imagine how you're going to be by the final. Like it's a long week, especially last year in Budapest when we had a day between each round. So that's 5 days of just, and for me that's quite intense. So I like the day off, because some people wouldn't like it because you think it's too much time to think. But I think it's just nice to relax, take a seat back and just let it all unfold.
You see, Trevor tells a great story, and I'm sure you'll remember this, where you were FaceTiming him about your tactics and your plans for the race.
Just Tokyo.
Yeah, exactly. God, you tell us the story.
Doing my makeup and I don't know, he loves that story. I was just killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But I think that is an example of maybe my personality and how I can be quite relaxed and not get too worked up about it in my head. And that is probably the main reason why I've been able to keep my composure and deliver on the day. So
tell us how you do this then, because I think that, you know, lots of athletes would not do their makeup while talking to their coach a few hours before one of the biggest moments of their life, because you know, common thought is, oh, you shouldn't do that. Not many athletes would be late because the common thought is, oh, you better be on time.
Yeah.
How do you remain you in this world of people telling you that this is how it should be done?
Yeah, it almost be seen as like a bit unserious. I'm not taking it seriously. I remember another time that day on my Garmin watch, it said that I was like peaking just before the Olympic final. And I wanted to send him a picture of it, but I thought he's going to think I'm being so stupid if I do that. Like, concentrate on your... So I didn't end up doing it, but I did take a picture on my phone. But yeah, no, I think for me, I was just being myself. I literally was just being myself, and I was having so much fun in the Olympics. Like, I was very much an underdog back then, no pressure on me at all. I knew I could get a medal. He knew I could get a medal. It was just figuring out the best way to do that. And once we figured it out, it was like, well, I've run 1,800,000 in my life, just go and win another one. And it sounds so simple, because it is. It really is that simple. And I know there's a lot on the line. Olympic medals can really change my life, 100% back then. But I think you just have to take it back to that basics of it's literally just another race in a really big stadium.
Love that.
You know, Huel has been a staple of my diet for some time, and I'm currently loving these Huel Daily A to Z vitamins. Tastes great, refreshing. Each can has 26 vitamins and minerals, offering 154 science-backed health benefits. Reduced tiredness and fatigue, normal cognitive function, healthy skin, hair and nails, and vitamin D for immunity. This is a vitamin drink that offers everything you could need it to. So what are you waiting for? Grab it right now in Tesco stores nationwide or at huel.com and let me know what you think.
So how do you manage it then because if you think of it through the lens of, you've got the weight of expectation, you've got your ability of, I'm just going to run another race, I've done this thousands of times, and then the consequences that are there of, you can change your life by winning a medal here. How do you process both when people are trying to put the expectation on you or talk about the consequences of success or failure?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's changed over the years. Because obviously when I first did Tokyo, like, I was very much an underdog. That year would probably be the easiest year of my life. I look back in it and I'm like, God, that year was so easy. Because I was upcoming, I was young, didn't matter if I medaled or not, didn't even matter if I made the final or not, didn't even matter if I made the team or not, because I was just doing my best and I was like, just started uni. Whereas now it's like, okay, when I won my silver in Tokyo, I really didn't want to be just the young one that got lucky and was like, oh yeah, she just got that medal one time. Like, I wanted to back it up and be like, no, like, I can do this year after year. Yep. So that next year was quite difficult for me in terms of flipping that mindset. And now instead of being an underdog chasing everybody else, I was now one of the targets. And obviously the American girl, she was the main target. But even like racing the circuit that year, like the year before, I was coming fourths and fifths, and I just raced the Olympic final so well I got a medal. But that next year it was like, no, I want to win on a weekly basis. I want to do this and that, run more consistently. But I think again, it just goes back to stripping it back to basics. Like that's one thing that I've spoke to about my psychologist and with Trevor, like just go back, you know what you do in training. Our training's so good that I know what shape I'm in. The second I step on the track, like I know what I'm capable of. And that really helps in my confidence. Because some athletes may be like, they might see it as like, no, don't tell me that I can run that time. It might be too much. And I'm like, Trevor, I need you to tell me. If I can run 155, I need you to tell me, because then I'll believe I can do it.
Okay.
So I think that's how my mind works. Like I need that like confidence from the group around me.
So when you step on the track then, are you focused on going after the gold medal, or is it just literally, I'm going after this time?
See, that's a sticky one, because I think there's a difference. So in Tokyo, for example, I raced for a medal, which is very different to racing for a gold medal. Because you can race for a gold, go really wrong and come 4th, 5th and 6th. So, but then these last 2 years, for me, I'd only race for gold if I know for definite I'm walking away with a medal. And Trevor's very honest with me about that. If he thinks, yes, you're in position that you can get a gold if you want it, we're going to race for the gold. In Tokyo, maybe he didn't fully believe that I could win, but he was like, you can definitely get a medal. So we ran for a medal. And then if I'd have ran another way, maybe I wouldn't even got on the podium. So it's a very honest conversation you've got to have with your coach, I think, about like what position are you in. But in terms of time, the time tends to just come with it. I ran my best times not even trying to go for a time. They just happen to come, because I think on those days, you've got to be very relaxed. The weather's got to be good. You've got to be feeling good. The warm-up's got to go good. A lot of factors going in. Whereas if you're racing for a medal, it's like you don't even think about the times. You're just thinking about the people around you and what positions to put yourself in.
And excuse my naivety here, but I'm thinking, what's the difference between running for a medal and running for a gold medal? Because in my head, I've always thought when I watch you all competing, you're just going as quick as you can for as long as you can, right?
Yeah.
But there's obviously an awful lot more to it. So would
Yeah.
you mind sharing for our audience actually what happens in the thought process?
I think it's definitely a mindset switch.
Yeah.
Because when you're going for a medal, like there's 3 opportunities. If you're going for gold, there's just the one. So it definitely is a bit more pressure on yourself, I would say, and a bit less opportunities to make any mistakes, because I feel like one mistake and you can just lose that gold. But like I said, I would only go for that if I knew 100% I was in that shape. So Budapest, I raced for a gold. Oregon, I raced for a gold.
So what are you doing then when you're racing for a gold?
I think you just got your mind on that gold. I can't really explain it. It's just a mind thing. I think it's just like a mindset shift in like just a self-belief of like, no, I can get that gold. And whereas, right, we're going for a medal. And just maybe the tactics that you make, you might not go as early because you're thinking, no, I don't want to burn out. I definitely want to make sure I'm in that medal spot. Whereas in the gold, you're thinking, no, I need to be on it. Like, let's go the whole way, see how far you can go. But I think if you watch my races back, now that I've said this, you might be able to see the difference in my Tokyo race compared to my Oregon race. Whereas Oregon, I was on at the front. I was really trying to get the American girl. Whereas in Tokyo, I was in 7th until about 200 meters to go. Then I started coming through. But I do remember thinking the last 100 in Tokyo, right? See if you can catch her, but the line just came too soon. But yeah, I think it's just a mentality switch of just like, you really have to believe you can get gold in order to run for it.
But does that not create a sense of desperation? And if so, is that helpful for you?
I guess so, a desperation. I think it's more just like something I really want. Like I've got 3 silvers now. So I really want to upgrade that gold. But I think something I've been working on with like my psychologist is that switching mentality of, because it can be quite scary as well, thinking, okay, how am I going to find this extra 1% to like upgrade to that gold against these really, really good girls, and you can't control what they do. So I think it's just really believing the narrative is what we've been working on. And I'm quite a visual person. So in Tokyo, like I kind of just knew I was going to get the silver. I had just something I visualized all the time I knew I was going to run 155 as well. I remember thinking, no, I'm going to run 155 today. I'm quite intuitive, I feel like.
Yeah.
So when it happened, I wasn't necessarily surprised. But then fast forward to Oregon, I genuinely thought I was going to win that day. I didn't. I lost by 0.08 for the gold medal for the World Championship title. So yeah, I think something I'm working on is just like really believing how much I believed in myself to get a medal in Tokyo. I need to really believe in myself that much to be able to get the gold.
And that leads us into, there's really interesting research on this about counterfactual thinking. Okay. I don't know if you remember, the research was originally done at the 92 Olympics where they went and questioned athletes that had medalled, and what they found is that bronze winning athletes were happier than silver winning because we were both asking what if, but bronze medal winners went, what if I hadn't raced as well and come fourth? Whereas silver medal winners were going, what if I'd have raced a bit harder and got gold?
Gold, yeah.
So how do you process, though, having got 3 silver medals, what's your what if thinking then, and what's it doing in terms of changing your approach?
I think it definitely helps me push myself on a daily basis. Because I think you just want to, at this point, I'm trying to find as many little 1% as I can. I was like sleeping better, eating better, training harder, even though I do train really hard. But yeah, like you say, with the bronze, that could go either way of if you were not even meant to get a medal and you got one, any colour, it doesn't matter, you're going to be happy. Whereas in silver, in the next year, I was disappointed with my silvers, and it does afterwards make you think, okay, you're analysing the race thinking, where did I go wrong here? I can look back at Budapest and I'm like, that's where I lost it.
So tell us, where was it you lost it?
Giving away all my secrets now. No, for me, my plan going into that race was to really stick. I didn't know who was going to take it on. Didn't think it would be me because I think one of the other girls was going to do it, and the American girl did. But she took it out really fast. 56 dead is very fast paced for us for the first lap. And I think I just had a little moment of a doubt at 300 where I let the Kenyan come past me. And there I was in fourth because I had the other British girl on my inside, Gemma, and then I had the other two at the front. But that already created a gap, which meant when it came to the last 100, although I caught them up, the Kenyan already had the jump on me. So even though I caught up the gap and my 100 may have been faster than hers, she already had that meter. And at that point, in that little tiny percent, I'd lost it.
It's so interesting that we just watch a race and see people running, and there's so much to think about going on in your head, which leads us to a really interesting question, which is, to what extent do you think your success to this point has been mental, and to what extent has it been physical?
I'm probably going to say like 90-10. 90% mental, 10% physical, I'm going to say. Just because I think if I go back to, again, the Tokyo year, like I don't think anyone apart from Trevor or Jenny really believed that I would even make the Olympic team or even run sub-2 that year. And I did knock off a big chunk of I knocked 6 seconds off in a year, which will never happen again in my life. But yeah, I just think I've just been growing up in an environment that I'm really grateful for with my parents and stuff, where they've just always told me that if I'm a person that if I really believe it, it can happen. And that's just something I've had in me since I was like 10. So I think when it came to that year, I was just like, no, I can. Even when I ran the Olympic qualifying time, I still don't think people thought I was going to make the team. Whereas as long as I believe and I've got Trevor believing in me and Jenny, then that's all I really need. And I think that will just push me on to do. And I do like proving people wrong.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm so pleased that you work with a psychologist, because it's a very common answer. I mean, 90% is high. Damian Kelly Holmes said 80% mental, 20% physical. It's in that same ballpark. But then we've had athletes sit in front of us and we say, how many hours a week are you working on your body? 36, 40 hours a week. What about working on your mental resilience and your mental health? Oh, 0. So 90% of your success is mental. Yeah. Therefore, it's mad that you don't put loads of effort and time into that part of your training.
Yeah, I think it was something that not many people, when I was definitely younger, I was like, I don't need that, I'm fine. Because I actually started working with my psychologist first for me off the track, not really anything to do with the track, because I felt like at the time I was fine. But then now slowly I'm like trying to get into that gold medal mindset, So,
and what age were you when you started working with a psychologist?
I probably started working with Tom now for about 2 years. It was 2022 I started working with him.
Okay.
And for me, back then, it was more about me getting used to the switch from just being like teenage girl, just finished uni, to then like just a different life. Like I'd bought my own place, I'd moved out, there was a new sort of pressure. I was more struggling off the track personally than I was on. But then now I've gone through all that. I feel like I've grown into the role now, and now we work more towards track.
And how did those struggles manifest themselves? Because it's not uncommon that when the thing you've always wanted starts to happen, it's amazing how much that can actually negatively impact your mental health.
Yeah, I think I didn't actually realise how much the Olympic come down is actually a really big thing. So I feel like the best way I can explain it would be, I was 19, I had such a big high, because Olympic medal is something I dreamed of, Did I think it was going to happen at 19? No, absolutely not. It just kind of did. But then I feel like that thing was such a high that when I then came down from that high, it was almost like the other things that you used to get a high from, whether that be like going out with your friends or this and that, just weren't that high anymore. And I just felt like I was always just low and sad. Right. And I would actually say I did hit a stage of depression at some point. And I just was like, but why do I feel sad? I have nothing to feel sad about. So that was like a struggle of just, because you've ended up thinking, my life's great. What have I got to feel sad about? But it was just, I couldn't really get any sort of high from anything else. So I was just working on, getting used to that switch, and then it became all about the little things and spending time with family and really appreciating time and being at home, and then eventually it came around.
And I'm so pleased you've said this, because we work with some mental health providers on this podcast. It's really important to us to have this sort of conversation. You would be amazed how often athletes wait till they retire before admitting this kind of stuff, and I think it's a shame. So what has the psychologist said to you that might be helpful for people who are watching this and they might be in a similar situation?
I think for me it was, because although I did drop out of uni after, I actually decided before Tokyo that I was not going to go back to uni because it wasn't really for me. It was just finding again the pleasures in the small things and taking it day by day. And whether that was literally getting out of bed and making your bed in the morning was like a progress, or I just couldn't look too far ahead. I had to just day by day. And plus the next year when we had 3 championships to do in one summer, we had the Worlds, the Commonwealths and the Europeans. Still no idea how I got through that because it was so much racing. But I think it was literally one day at a time, find little hobbies that I like to do. So like I now learn to play the piano as a nice little peaceful thing. And I just think I found joy in the small things, and I wanted to feel like it wasn't a chore to go to training. It was a pleasurable thing. And we just slowly worked on that and just took patience, I'd say. I don't have a lot of patience, but I think patience was the big one that we factored in.
And what advice would you give to people listening to this that maybe recognise people in their life are struggling? What was the best piece of advice you received from your inner circle?
Well, probably my mum, to be honest. Like, I feel like as a parent, she's probably one that really did understand. And like at the time and being so young, my friends, they hadn't really been fit. I was in a very different situation to them, and I didn't really talk to them about it, to be honest, because how much would they understand? Probably not that much. Whereas my mum was like, no, I totally get how you're feeling. Like, you might feel guilty for feeling sad or whatever, but I think she just spoke to me on FaceTime about, because I lived in Leeds at the time, and my parents are from Manchester. So we just took our time, and I think she just listened to me. I just like being listened to, I think. I think the best thing is to just sit down and listen.
Can we go back to the start of your journey? Because when we were preparing for this, I read a really interesting paper by a psychologist called Marie Efferink-Gemser, who wrote a book called Elite Athletes and How They Get There.
Yeah.
And there was 2 factors that she identified with lots of talented athletes about making that leap into Olympic level like you did.
Yeah.
One of them was that around the age of 13 to 15, the athlete would take early ownership of their career, whether it was their training or who their coaches were going to be or how they were going to do it.
How old was that?
Between the age of 13 to 15.
It's quite young, isn't it?
And then the other one was something around, they demonstrated a level of grit, like a test of character and resilience.
Okay.
And I'm interested in your story, if you can recognise those 2 factors, and if so, how they manifest themselves.
Yeah, I probably could actually. I think my moments of grit, I think I probably think back to 2. So when I was about 12, 13, I had an ear operation. I had a mastoidectomy, which is like a tumour that grows, and it had been growing for about 10 years, the doctors think, and it crushed all my hearing. So I'm actually half deaf in this ear. And I had to get it removed, but because it was like near the brain, I couldn't walk, I couldn't go to school for a month. Then I had to have like 3 months off any kind of like jumping, moving my head, And even though I was so young, I was still training quite a lot. Like I used to swim before I ran. So that for me, coming back from that, like I actually wanted to quit and be like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's just like the comeback. I come back from nothing, like not even able to bike or no fitness at all was very difficult for me. So then I was like, I'm just going to do it for fun. And then soon my competitive side kicked in. I was like, no. And then all of a sudden, I think I won my first national title when I was 15. And the next year was the European under-18s. And I was like, I said to my dad, I really want to make that team the next year. Yeah, fast forward, I ended up winning it. And that was my first international debut that I won. So I feel like through those years was like a good moment of testing. I mean, I was quite young. And the other one would be, I remember, I say this to people as my make or break point. I was about probably similar age, maybe just before I had the operation. And I was racing a girl in Manchester, and it was the Greater Manchester Schools. Like, you think back and you think it's the world at that age, but it's really not. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm not doing it. And I knew that me and this girl were going to be really, really close. So I was like, it's not going to be an easy win or anything. And my dad actually bribed me with a pair of shoes. He was like, if you do it, I'll take you to Selfridges and get you a pair of shoes. And it's like it's probably against his parenting, but it's probably the only time that he's done it. And I remember he said to me, I was like, I had to ring your mum and say, I'm so really sorry, I had to bribe her. But I did it and I won by like 0.01. But I'm adamant that if he hadn't have made me do that race, I think I would have just quit, shied away. And just, so he really pushed me out of my comfort zone, which I feel like has helped complement who I am today.
Which leads us into a really interesting area about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, because lots of athletes would say, it's all about just getting better and learning the craft. But the reality is it's probably a mix of both, isn't it? Sometimes you need to incentivize yourself with a pair of shoes as well as wanting to learn the craft.
Yeah, that's quite funny. I would say so. I think you need other goals as well, maybe. I think a lot of it is, the last couple of years it's definitely been about getting better and this and that. But then eventually, I feel like when you've been doing it a long time, you may need other motivators as well. And if that's what makes you do it.
So what are you using to get you a gold in Paris 2024?
It's going to sound so materialistic.
It's not, go on.
I think I wanted a new car. And I was like, if I get the gold, it's a nice payday and I will buy myself a new car. I wanted a Porsche, it's like a sports,
Nice.
I don't know which one it is. It's like the low down sports one, but in this really nice beige colour. It's just hot.
Would you allow yourself to buy the car if you got silver?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
So it's gold and you get the car?
Yeah.
There's something else that I think we should touch on, because there was 2 points to that research. The first one was about grit. The second one was taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Obviously these days you're taking responsibility by saying, get a car, forget the gold. Let's rewind though to when you were younger. Do you remember a time where you took responsibility away from coaches, away from parents, and put yourself at the centre of some of your decisions?
Yeah, I think there will be quite a few, but one of the main ones was actually probably when I joined Trevor. I was about 17, just after the summer. I'd known Trevor and Jenny for a little bit because they're from my area. But I kind of knew the setup that I was in, even though I used to be with the club coaches at Lee Harriers, and they were so good for me growing up. They did a lot for me. They really believed in me. But there did come a point where it was like, right, if I want to be better, I need to leave this and move on.
How did you know that?
I think I just knew, like I was going to training and like the range of people there was just, I'd surpassed it at this point. And as much as my coach at the time, Margaret, would want to do everything, I think she was almost relieved when I told her I wanted to leave, which is unusual because some coaches would probably be annoyed thinking, why would you want to do that? But it shows how much they supported me and they wanted the best for me. But at 17, having that conversation, I think, with someone who I didn't want to hurt their feelings, and it was very awkward, and I don't really like conversations like that. It was quite a big thing for me. But I think it showed how much I really did want the best scenario for me. So I messaged them. I was like, I want to have a conversation. Like, I'm thinking of joining Trevor and Jenny. If Trevor and Jenny had taken me, they actually debated it at the time. I was like, do we really want to take on this girl? Because it could change the course of their life completely. And it has, because now they dedicate their life to me and their group.
Yeah.
But luckily they did. And then it was actually quite a peaceful transition in the end. But I think that for me was quite a confrontational moment.
Will you tell us about that conversation? Because that's a very mature thing for a 17-year-old to go and do with a long-standing coach like that.
Yeah, I think I just kind of knew deep down that it wasn't right for me, and if I did really want to progress, I've got one of the world's best coaches on my doorstep. Why would I not take that opportunity? But I just didn't want to hurt their feelings. Like, they've done a lot for me. They still do. I still go and see them, and they still support me all the time. But I think it's just that you didn't know how they were going to react. And me being young, like, I managed to keep my parents out of it, actually. I wanted to do it myself, which is quite good, but with the help from my dad, obviously, and things like that. So I think it was just a bit of a character development as well, being able to do that at a young age and progress forward.
You need to hear this, okay? Your gut matters. It's a vital building block to health. Now, you might not know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. I didn't know that. And 95% of serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical, is created in your gut. And if there's one thing we need more of, it's a feel-good chemical, right? That's why when it came to choosing a probiotic, I had to know it was proven and that I could fully trust it. And this is it. Biotic by Heights, specifically formulated to give you everything you need for your gut, your mind, and your immune system. I take it every day, and the difference for me is real. And you could trust me, fine, cool, or you could trust the tens of thousands of high performers and elite athletes that rely on Biotic every day. So join tens of thousands of high performers and try Heights with an exclusive 20% off your first month, only with this podcast. Go to heights.com/HP or enter the code HP20 at checkout. You'll love it.
There was another lovely story that Trevor, your coach, shared with us that you did, though, that really jumped out to me, is when you went and recruited 2 lads from your class that were faster than you to train with you.
Oh, yeah. That's probably another moment, actually.
Yeah, will you tell us about it?
That would be before I moved. So that summer, I'd struggled with shin splints the whole winter, and Trevor had helped me with the off-the-track training, like on the bike. I'd never been injured like that before. When I came back, like I said before, with the difference, I was training with my mum. Me and my mum were in the same training group.
Right.
And that's when you just know it's not right. And my mum was like, yeah, I don't think we should be training together. So then I was like, said to my coach Margaret at the time, any chance we could just come a bit earlier so then we can get the proper recovery times and do it properly. She was like, yeah. So then the boys were happy to come and help me. I've had a lot of nice boys come along and really help me out over the years, because they don't have to. And they could be thinking, I want to get beat by a girl.
And what did they do? So you went and asked 2 guys that were faster than you to actually come and push you on, is that?
Yeah, just train with them. And it's better, it's nicer to have people to do it with. Like, I could have come and do it by myself, but when you're chasing people, you tend to get more out of yourself.
So this takes us nicely onto what you think makes a great coach.
I think a level of getting on with the athletes really well. I don't really like it when I see coach-athlete relationships and they're always arguing, or there's, not that I've seen many in my time, but you hear just bad stories, and I'm not going to sit and act like me and Trevor get on all the time. I see him more than I see my own parents and my own family every day. When we're on camp, it's like twice a day, every day. So there's definitely, I think it's being able to cope with that as well. There is going to be disagreements, and I ask questions of why are we doing this, why are we doing that, or et cetera, and he's very good at handling those things. I think also creating a fun environment for the athletes to want to come back to. I think he said that before when he was talking to you, and that's his big philosophy. A fast athlete is a happy athlete. So even though he makes terrible dad jokes all the time, it creates a really nice environment, and I feel like everybody in our group likes it, and we always have a laugh and a joke, even though this is our job, technically.
Do you feel able to question him? And is that important?
Yeah, I do. I think as I get older, he said before, you might have more input in what you do because you've had way more experience. Currently, I've been with them 4.5 years. I kind of know the plan, but he still adds in more things, and I'm like, it just gets harder every year. Like, you think it gets easier, it doesn't. So, I'll ask him, why are we doing that? Or I'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. And then we do have a little back and forth sometimes, but ultimately, why we worked together so well when I first came to it, because I just trusted him completely. I trusted his experience, and I didn't know anything, and it's worked out so well. Why would I not trust him now?
It reminds me of when we were lucky enough to sit down with Dina Asher-Smith. She spoke to us about the relationship with John Blackie, her coach, and she recounted one example in the World Championship semi-final when she had a bad start and got through. And she said she was in real panic mode, thinking, what do I need to do? How do I need to improve? Do I need to do extra reps? And she said when she went and spoke to John, he just said, do what you've done 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
And that, to her, was an example of great coaching.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example where Trevor or Jenny have intervened and made a real difference through what you would recognise as great coaching?
Quite a few like that. Like, I think as an athlete, one of the hardest things is to say no. Like, most athletes at the top, they'll always want to do more. How can I get better? How can I do this? And you need, I need someone to tell me when there's too much. And when you're like, no, you don't need to do anything. Or, there's been times, like, I do emphasize a lot on my like pre-race sessions, because some of them will tell me exactly what shape I'm in. And you kind of get a bit scared about what's going to come from the clock, because it's going to tell you exactly what's going on. But like, I remember before Oregon, I had a really bad pre-champ session, and that's kind of the one that I'd always rely on to be like, fill me with confidence. And I was like crying off the track, like, no, it's going to be terrible. And he's just like, one bad session is not going to make or break you for this champ. You've done a year's worth of stuff. And I think it's just, he helps me remember that, like, just to keep calm, keep you focused. You've done all the work, it's all there. And it's very easy to just off sweat by one thing. So I think that for me is the good coaching, of being able to just take the composure as well.
Can we talk about a day of you and your coaches, and what does it look like? What does a day look like for you in the build up to the Olympics?
Every day's a little bit different. I see Trevor pretty much every day. I'll go for a Tuesday, a typical Tuesday.
Yeah.
Will be track day. So we get up, we meet at the track about 10 a.m. if I'm on time. We'll have a bit of a chat, stretch and roll, everyone will come, do the warm up, do some hurdles or whatever, get the session done. That can take up to about 2-3 hours, depending on how much everyone talks. Then have a break. If we're on camp, then I'll see him twice in the day. We'll go for lunch. Sometimes I go for lunch in the city centre with my friends, Then later on, I'll go back to the gym, double day, cross train, maybe some core, and that's my day done. It sounds quite easy, but it's not.
How do you know you're working hard enough?
See, that's something that actually crosses my mind quite a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Where you just think, like, some days, some sessions might feel really easy. Or not easy, but you're thinking, I feel really good today. Like, I'm not throwing up in the bin over there. Like, am I okay? But I think it's just, there's a rule of 3 I've heard a lot of people say. Like, the rule of 3 is something like, out of 3 sessions a week, you might have 1 that's average or okay, and that one might put you down because it's not as good as what it has been. Or there's been times where times I've been that good, but I'm absolutely dying. I'm like, am I just not fit? Your body's not going to be 100% all the time. I think that's important to remember. I think there has been times during sessions where I've been like, am I working hard enough or am I not? But it's very easy to say that when the workout's done.
Yeah.
Because during it, when I'm absolutely dying, you're like, I can't go any harder. My legs are finished. I can't get up. But then when you're done, you're like, no, I definitely could have gone half a second faster on that rep. But that's the mind playing tricks on you, I think.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to the end of that year, like, I know as long as I follow Trevor's process that I will be fine.
I've read, Steve Magnus, the athletics coach in America, he's a brilliant author as well. And I've read a really interesting idea from him. I'd be interested in whether you use this, where he says in training where you're doing lots of reps like you, he said he finds it more helpful rather than constantly striving to raise the bar, raise the floor. So it's almost like, as long as you can guarantee that consistently I can run a certain time, you give yourself the opportunity that on those days where you do feel good, you can then raise the bar,
forever,
but actually you consistently.
Yeah, I would agree with that actually. I think definitely one thing I've learned over the last couple of years is to like recover. Recovery is very key. And I think when I was younger, like when I have like steady run days, I think a lot of athletes are probably guilty of this, of like pushing it and being like, and you're absolutely knackered, like just doing a 30-minute run, be like dying. Whereas the days are meant like you need recovery time. I think the one thing I've learned is I've always thought, oh, well, if I don't, like I'm going to lose fitness or something silly like that. But then now I've gone through the process of doing it, I've been like, no, like you need to chill out, you need to recover. And I've ended up running better. So I think there definitely is.
So what is a world-class recovery? I mean, there'll be lots of people listening to this that are like, I need to be better at recovery. What advice would you share with us? I
go back to the saying no thing with a lot of athletes can't say no. Everyone's different, obviously, but I think like I am the type of person that will always be looking for more, to do more. Like if my S&C coach sets me 10 to 12 pull-ups, I'll do 12. Or, that's just how my mind works. And if my coach says, just do 30 to 35 minutes, I'm like, is it 30 or 35? Like, I'm not like, tell me which one. And they'll be like, just do 30. So I think for me, it has been learning the art of saying no. I have 1 rest day a week. And my week is very intense, like training for the 800, like most days it's twice a day. It's quite an exhausting life. So I think the big 1% I'm looking for now is how I can get it in the recovery. So, yeah.
we're talking at a time where you need to get it right.
Yeah.
Because we're in the build-up now to Paris 2024 Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you not let the fear and the doubt and the risk of injury and the worry about your opponents and all these other things that will start to swirl around in your mind, how do you not let those derail you so you go into those Olympics in the right space?
It's definitely hard. I've just probably been through that. Like the reason I missed it indoors is because I tore a ligament in my knee a couple months ago, and people weren't really telling me how bad it was. And it's because I think people were trying to protect me from that. And I'm just like, well, if I knew it was this long, then I would have been fine in my head because I'd have had a set plan. That's just kind of how my brain works. And I think I've not really had an injury this big in a long time. So I think it was like full recovery was 3 months, but I started running again after 2. 8 weeks out is a kind of a long time to have out with no running at all on the bike. I hate the bike. I hate it. And it's being injured is a lot harder than actually not being injured because it takes up more time. You've got rehab, appointments, physio. So it's just annoying. But you definitely are thinking like, oh God, this hasn't happened. It's an Olympic year. Like last Olympic year went so smoothly. What's going to happen now? And I think it's just, again, Trevor was so chill. He's like, it's fine. Like, it's not fine. It's fine. So definitely
that's
good.
He knows you though, I think, isn't
yeah,
it?
probably.
There'll be other
he's got a
athletes
plan
where
in
he
his
might
head.
say something different.
Yeah, he knows I'm always willing to work hard and killing myself on the bike every day. So I was fit when I came back, but you know, you've got to work on that sharpness. So definitely now, I'm like, can't get injured, can't afford any more time out. I'm in a good place now and training's going really well. I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm fast. So now it's just maintaining that. And to be honest, there is nothing I could do, nothing more I could do. I do everything I can. I recover, I train well, see physio, eat well. You just kind of got to hope for the best. I think with some injuries, they're just unpredictable. Like with my knee, it was a freak accident. I twisted my ankle and it's gone up to my knee and I've carried on running and it's torn. That's not even my fault. They're the even more frustrating ones. So you just have to hope, I think, sometimes.
What about rivalries? When do you start thinking about your biggest rivals for Olympic gold?
I feel like that you're always kind of thinking about it, to be honest. Like, I'm not going to lie, you always are thinking about it. Like, you know, wonder what they're doing, what shape they're in, because none of my main rivals have actually raced indoors this year. So no idea what shape anybody's in.
And who are your main rivals, you think?
I'd say currently they're probably, I think the other British girl, Gemma, is up there. Definitely in terms of domestic, because like when we go to British champs, she's definitely one of the world's best. The American girl, Mo, and the Kenyan girl, Mary Mora. Now, I don't race the American girl a lot. We probably actually raced about 4 times. So it's still yet figuring out how she races. Where with Mary, I tend to see her quite a lot on the circuit, and Gemma as well. So a bit more confidence with them too, I guess. But yeah, you just don't know. I think it is definitely 80% focused on what you're doing, 20% on maybe a little sneaky eye on what's going on over there.
Well, again, there's some really interesting research on this, Keely. There's a guy called Gavin Kilduff that wrote a book called The Upside of Rivalry.
Yeah.
So rather than see it as a bad thing, it's like, well, what
I
are the
love
benefits?
it.
Well, one of the things that he talks about is that there was one study with cross-country runners that said when you have a rival present, you tend to run about 5 seconds a kilometre faster by having somebody there. So how do you not see it as and induce that threat state that can come from seeing a rival and instead see it as a challenge state? What do you do to process that?
I think, again, it is definitely a mind shift of like trying to see the positive side of some things. So when we do get together, I produce like a lot of my fastest times racing her, especially the American girl. Like I think 3 or 4 of my fastest times ever have been in championship finals racing the American girl. So that's a bonus. You're only going to bring out the best. I think I've broken 2 British records with her in the race. And I think it's just not shying away from it, because I always think in my head, no one's going to kill me if I don't win this race. Like my life's not over, it's fine. And I just think I just don't want to walk away with any regrets. Like I remember the last thing I said to my friends was like, right, just don't make any mistakes that you're going to regret, or don't not commit and regret it later on, because you can't go back and you have to wait for the next one then. And like the next time I'll probably race her is the Olympic final. There's a whole year to then go right and get it right again. So I think it's just, no regrets and just go for it.
There's a great phrase that success leaves clues, right? And the lovely thing for you is that the clue is you keep beating these rivals when you need to. That must be lovely for you from a mental capacity going into the Olympics.
Yeah, it's definitely good knowing I am capable of doing it, because I feel like every time we line up, it's a different order. Unfortunately, I always come second, but it's always been like maybe the Kenyans won or the Americans won, or it's always been a different, which is what makes it quite exciting at the moment. One thing, like when I was growing up watching athletics, like so Jessica Ennis and Mo Farah, was how do they come back and keep doing it over and over again? And I kind of take me a while to kind of consider myself someone like that, because I look back and I've managed to do it quite a few times now, which is quite good. But even now, I couldn't give you an answer on how I do it. I think it's just 1 year at a time, one race at a time, one champs at a time. Because like I said, I look back on my friend and think, how did he win Olympic, worlds? Like, it's actually really impressive when you break it down, to come back year after year and produce the best. Crazy.
Have you ever had the opportunity to ask either of those?
No, I haven't actually. Definitely something I would. Even Kelly Holmes, like doing the double, that is probably very unheard of now. Doing the 8:15 double, any kind of double, crazy. So just how did she do it?
Kelly told, I mean, I'm not trying to answer for Kelly, but when we spoke to her, she told us that she shared a lovely extract from her diary that she wrote at the start of Olympic year, where she'd spoken about feeling it was a destiny, but she'd started working with a coach out in South Africa.
Yeah, Potchefstroom, we go there.
Yeah. And she said that one of the exercises her coach had done was asked her to write down all her strengths, all the things she was good at, and then write down the things that she felt had let her down. And when she did that, she said she wrote a long list for all the strengths. And then there was 2 things, which was bad luck and injury.
Oh.
And then she felt like she could do something about the injury stuff by being kinder to herself and things like that. So what are the kind of tips and techniques, similar to what Kelly shared with us, that you're doing to put yourself mentally in that gold medal winning mindset?
I think for me, like I remember in Tokyo, we got like a diary thing, and I'm not really a writer down. I remember I did actually, because I wanted to look back and think, oh, what was I thinking at that time? And I had it written down, like how the heats went, how the semis went, how the final went. And I feel like it does help, but I'm quite a visualizing person. So for me, I think to get into that mindset, it would just be like, what's it going to feel like winning that gold? Or what's it, like all the hard work I've put in, like, I think it's that feeling that I'm chasing of like, I finally did it. I think that's what really helps me keep going and pushing for that. I've been quite fortunate that my body's pretty healthy most of the time, and I've not been subsided with bad luck like that. A lot of athletes are. It's really unfortunate. Nothing I can really do about that. I just got to keep in that mindset of visualising what I want and almost manifesting it.
So how often do you visualise or manifest?
Probably every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And even if it's in the back of your mind, subconsciously.
What's in your head when you're manifesting? Is it the gold? Is it standing on the podium? Is it celebrating back home? What do you see?
All of it, I think. Just different snippets. And you're just like, I really want that. I think that's just always kind of worked for me in the past. Like, I visualise something that I really want, and I almost believe it so much, I just make it happen. So, and obviously it's not always happened, and you fall short a few times, but I think that's just something that's really helped me. Like, depends what kind of person you are, I think, but could work for others.
We had an expert on, Roxy Nafusi, that wrote a book called Manifest.
Okay.
And she was at pains to point out to us that just wishing it isn't the answer. It's about then marrying up that really rich picture with the hard work that underpins it.
Yeah.
So on a Tuesday when you're doing a double session and you know it's going to be hard, do you manifest before you get out of bed that gives you the energy?
I think it would be more like when it gets to like the last 2 reps and like I've probably have already thrown up inside of it and I'm thinking, I just want this to be over. It's like that ability to get back up onto the start and do another one and just put yourself in even more pain and just thinking like, this will all pay off one day, like it will come together and you will get, I think that's what just helps me keep going, I think.
Should we run through a few quick fire questions?
Yeah, go on.
3 non-negotiable behaviours that you and the people around you should buy into.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Honesty. And I think happiness, actually. I think that's really important, to just be happy.
Nice. Bring the optimism, yeah?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a teenage Keely, just starting out?
I'd say don't forget to live your teenage years. Make sure you're always having fun doing it, and that don't compare yourself, because I think comparison is the thief of joy.
we're 20 seconds away from the gun going at the start of the Olympic final. What's going through your head?
Ooh, I'll be thinking this will all be over in about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So you'll be fine. And also, I'm probably just telling myself, like, let's go. Like, this now is now or never. And just really raring to get off that line to go. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received and why?
Ooh. Best piece of advice. I think it would actually be what I've just said about the comparison. I think growing up, I was never like top of the UK rankings, and there's like everyone always focuses on top of the under 17 ranks, top of the trend. I never really was. I was always fourth and fifth. I mean, I sneak to bronze every now and then. And I think it was just patience and just sticking to your craft and what you're doing, and making it through those teenagers into the seniors is one of the hardest things. So to be able to do that in one piece was quite good, I think. So just patience.
What's your biggest strength? What's your greatest weakness?
I am a strong believer that people's biggest strength is also their biggest weakness. Like, it's the same thing. So mine probably would actually be my stubbornness, I'd say. I think I'm stubborn in training when it comes to, like, I want to do this now. I want to work as hard as I can, do the best I can. But if I don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. So I think, yeah, get the balance.
And the final question, what's your one golden rule to live a high-performance life?
Satisfaction. I think in terms of, if I can just walk away from a day feeling like I'm satisfied, whether it's been a good or bad day, I've made the right decisions, then I'm happy.
Thank you so much. Fascinating. And all of us wish you the very best, Paris 2024.
Thank you very much. It's exciting.
You are the Queen of the North.
Thank you, Keely.